Hello, good morning to the organizing committees from the University of Kerala and all the participants in this international webinar. My name is Thaw Zin, and for today's section, I am going to present about the portraying the army of Mara in Burmese Buddhist sculpture art. In today's presentation, I'm going to present the grace plaque of the army of Mara in 3 temples across Myanmar. For the talk, I will use the full set for Mara's army photograph from the Ananda temple taken by 3H VIVO production, as well as relevant examples from Sri Guji and Mengon from the international museums. Mara is the very main demons in the Buddhist and art and mythology. He attempted to stop the Buddha from the gaining enlightenment by sending his army with numerous terrible soldiers. Here is the translations of a verse from Lalita Vetara, chapter 21, mentioning the horrifying appearances of the army of Mara. They were disfigured and caused terror with their awful faces like foxes, jackals, pigs, donkeys, oxen, elephants, horses, camels, white asses, buffaloes, rabbit, yak, rhinos, and the egg-leg lion beasts. Some had animal bodies like lions, tiger, wild boars, bears, monkeys, elephant, cat, goats, sheep, snake, mongooses, fish, crocodiles, alligators, tortoises, ravens, vultures, owls, and garudas. These are the locations of the 3 temples on the map of Myanmar, which are the Ananda temples, from began built in the early 12th century, the Sri Guji temple from Bago built in the late 15th century, and the Mengon temple from Mengon built in the late 18th century. Here is the reason why I chose these 3 temples for the presentation. Mara's army is usually depicted beside the Buddha's image as the mural painting to symbolize the victory over Mara. But the mentioned 3 temples, the army of Mara is created into grace plaque and placed into the niches of the terraces, platform, and the enclosure walls as the different artistic trends. Then that temple themselves become the symbols of the enlightenment and the victory over Mara, which is the destruction. The first temple is the Ananda temple, with a meaning of the glorious and elegant temples. The temple was constructed in the early 12th century by King Jansita. The temple you can see here is adorned with over 100 grace plaque on each levels of terraces. The plaque include the previous Jataka stories of the Buddha, the celestial audience, and the armies of Mara. The Jataka plates decorate the upper terraces of the temples here, and the 552 plaques on the lower platform here are the sculptures of the Mara's army and the celestial audience. Almost all plaques are there in their original place since the establishment of the temple. 276 plaques out of 552 plaques illustrate the different members of the Mara's army. The plaques start from the west side of the south gate in the clockwise direction, crossing over the west gate until the west side of the north gates. The armies of Mara in Ananda temple can be grouped into the 4 main different categories. Firstly, 1 or 2 Mara soldiers riding on the animals, like with weapons and horrifying faces, riding on the animals such as elephants, horses, buffalo, bulls, makara, camels, tigers, deer, byala, lion, naga, garuda, hamsa, pig, dog, and so on. The second group is horrifying standing soldiers who are with headdresses sometimes, or sometimes with demon hats, sometimes with snake coming out of their eyes, ears, and mouth. The third group is hybrid figures. You will see the naga plus human, fish plus human, vultures plus human, elephant plus horse, buffalo plus lion, etc. The fourth one is just pair of animal as a part of the army of Mara. Here are two Mara soldiers riding on the elephants. The elephant is also the main vehicles of Mara. It also has a husky elephant called Kili Makara. Here are two Mara soldiers riding on horses as with their weapon waving into the air. Here are examples of two Mara soldiers riding on the buffaloes with big and curvy horns. Here are also two Mara soldiers riding on bulls. Here is the examples of the only one Mara soldier riding on a makara, which is a legendary sea creature in Hindu and Buddhist mythology. The example here is a combination of elephant horn, lion legs, and the fish bodies and tail. Here is the Mara soldiers riding on a camel, which can be recognized by its obvious humps. Here are the examples of Mara soldier riding on tigers. Sometimes the traces of spots can be found on the bodies of tigers. Here is the set of two Mara soldiers riding on deer. Here are Mara soldier riding on byala. Byala, which can be found in Burmese and Archaeology mythology, and it is also called Nawarupa in Pali, which means 9 shapes or forms. The byala is believed to be composed of the parts of 9 animals and creatures. Here is the Mara soldier riding on lions. Here are the Mara soldier riding on the bodies of naga, the mythical serpent. The soldiers can be seen in the squat position while holding up their weapons. Here are the Mara soldier riding on garuda, a demigod in Hindu Buddhist mythology. The example here depicts the anthropomorphic form of garuda with the human heads and body. Here are Mara soldier riding on geese. The final tools are difficult to identify. Here are Mara soldiers riding on pig, supposedly. Here is another difficult one to identify, which animal might be dog or something. Here are the Mara soldier with headdresses. Here are other batches of Mara soldiers with demon hats. Sometimes they can be seen with snakes coming out of their heads, ears, and mouth. Here we are in the next session for the hybrid features at the Ananda temple. You can see here are trials of naga plus human hybrids in which the hood of naga is clearly executed. The second one is the hybrid of fish and humans. The human head and torso were well dressed with ceremony headdresses, pendant, and waistcloth while holding the weapons in both hands. You will see in the hybrids of virtual hats and the human bodies. The last two are non-human hybrids, which is a combination of elephant hats and horse bodies. Here is another one, a combination of buffalo hats and lion bodies. The last part of Ananda temples is here, a pair of animals in Mara army. Here are pairs of lions. And here is pairs of bird and geese. Now we are at our second temple, Sri Guji, which means Great Golden Cave Temple. The temple was constructed in the late 15th century by King Demonised. The temple is a full-size replica of Mahabodhi Temple in Bodh Gaya. The niches of the enclosure wall were adorned with many narrative grace plaques, but only some fragments were left in the original temples and local museums. The many pieces of ceramic plaque from these temples are inside the collections of international museums, galleries, and private collections. The red highlighted main enclosure wall has niches to contain the plate of Mara's army. Moreover, the plaque depicted with daughters of Mara were found on the wall of the yellow highlighted Azapala temple. Here is the conditions of the niches on the enclosure walls of the Sri Guji in the early 20th century and versus in the nowadays. The armies of Mara from Sri Guji temple is mostly hybrid, which is almost always animal heads and human bodies. These two plaques is in the slides are from Museum Rieberg in Zurich, Switzerland. The first one is two soldiers with buffalo hats and human body. The second one is with horse hat. These two are from the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. The first one is with lion hats. The second one is with elephant hats. And these two are from the Asian Civilization Museum in Singapore. The first one is with horrifying demon hats, and the second one is with deer hats. In the first one here, you can see the buffalo hat and human body. In the second one, from the Bagur Archaeological Museum, a local museum in Myanmar, you can see another examples of elephant hats and human bodies. Here we are at our third and last temple. The temple is called Mingun Pathology, which means the Great Temple at Mingun. The constructions of the temple started in the late 18th century by King Bodopaya. The temples were originally projected to be the walled towers, but never finished since Bodopaya died in 1819. The narrative grace plaque, Jataka, Mara's army, monk, the Buddhist conferences, etc., were made to adorn the temple. They were made to decorate the enclosure walls of and the terraces of the temple, but the temple had never been finished. The plaque and the fragment can be found in some local monastery museums, state museum, international museum, and galleries, and some private collections. Here are some plaques from Mingun temples in the local monastery museum, and these are from a private collection. We are going towards the armies of Mara from Mingun temple. Here's the first one is from Vienna with a caption that is Mara soldier with snake head coming out. The second one here is from the National Museum in Naypyidaw with a caption which is Mara's soldier with parrot hat and human body. The first one here has a caption, Mara soldier riding on fish. This one is from V&A in London. The second one here is the caption from the second one reads, Mara soldier and sunbird deer hats. That one is also from the V&A. Let me just show you an examples of the durabilities of these artistic trends in these three temples, which were constructed each 300 years apart. Here is a set of 3 plates of hybrid creatures. Pagan used a dotted frame, going over to Bago with no frame, and the 18th century Mingon reused the frame with not with dots, but with wheels, which symbolize the teachings of the Buddha. Here is another example of durability. You can see how much these plaques 6 centuries apart look like. The reasonable compositions and gestures can tell us if this artistic trend from Pagan period is still in life after 600 years. It also reflects the repair of Ananda temples by King Bodhgaya, and also the attempts of following the footsteps of popular Buddhist king in history. In conclusion, by this presentation, I only want to give just preliminary information that leads to further research to know more about these 3 set of examples for something like tracking the collection history and provenance research. And I believe that more research and documentations are needed to examine these 3 sets of Mara's army following the same components and artistic trends. The plaques, the objects and the artifacts in various collections should also be documented and made a data set to get full information. Many thanks to the participants of the webinar for your attention. And thanks to the organizing committees of the webinar from the University of Kerala, and also Professor Alice Bermore, SOAS University of London, and Dr. Britannia, University of Kerala. I'm very grateful for giving me a chance to participate in this international webinar. Thank you so much.